What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledPeople. This story's called Entitled Person Wants to Put Down All Pit Bulls and Tells a Young Pregnant Girl to get out a baby card or enjoy being homeless. After a run-in with this user myself, I decided to dig a little deeper, and oh boy do they make my blood boil. This particular Redditor is a moderator on multiple subreddits to do with receiving funds, but I really don't think they should be. First post was of a young girl who had recently found out she was pregnant and had been disowned by her family because of it. She reached out to the internet for help and posted her crowdfunding onto one of the subreddits this user moderated. This user commented by telling her to get out a baby card if she's not in a good place to raise a child. Now, I agree that if it's unfair to bring a child into the world if you're not ready to look after it, but this young woman was already pregnant and decided to keep the baby when her family had disowned her. The attack to her mental health that a comment like that could do. When the girl replied to this user saying she wanted to keep her baby, the user replied by saying, "Well, good luck being poor and homeless." Another person had posted about their loving pit bull that needed a new home for whatever reason, and this user called it a scam because pit bulls are not loving animals and should be banned and put down. Even claimed the post needed to be removed because of the red flags because they gave positive traits that couldn't be true of a pit bull. The cruelty to an innocent animal just because of its breed particularly got to me, as my personal encounter with them was regarding a crowdfunder for my emotional support animal. They told me to give him away because they were a pet owner themselves, and as my pet was just a rabbit, I couldn't really be that attached to it because it's just a rabbit, Jesus! I explained that I was very attached to him. I have panic attacks if I leave home without him, and I'm only asking for the help as during the beginning of the pandemic, I donated over £2,000 of my savings to people in need, not knowing I would come to need that money now, but they continued with their insensitive comments. There are plenty more stories of them attacking people in the comments of fundraising requests that clearly follow community guidelines for the subreddits they moderate, as well as plenty of posts they've removed under false pretenses. How do people like that become moderators? I always taught that if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. No need to attack people asking for help. If you don't want to donate, then just keep scrolling. People understand. I do hope that young mother-to-be is okay though. I donated a small amount to her to apologize for her having to deal with someone saying things like that. Edit. If anyone checks the comments and see the user I'm talking about, there's another person who they've teamed up with. I was sent a screenshot of them conversing in comments and planning on becoming mods to different financial help subs and adding each other to them. Uh-oh, that's not good. Okay, first of all, it's one thing if it's like, just jokes. Like, I know a lot of people get sensitive about pit bulls. Like if someone posts a really cute video of a pit bull and they're like chewing on a chew toy, I'm like, oh, he's having fun because he's having so much fun because he's imagining he's eating a baby's head or something, just something stupid like that. And it's always funny because someone always gets upset about it. It's like, bro, this is obviously not targeting you. This is targeting people that make these jokes, unironically. Anyway, this guy's clearly not doing that. He's just a weirdo. Yeah, doesn't need to be a moderator. Doesn't need to be a jerkbag. But we all know that already. This story's called The Metric System Doesn't Care About Your Entitlement. So this was a few years ago when my wife and I, both Mancunian, were doing a mini world tour as part of our honeymoon. We were in Iceland and had been really disappointed to find out that the Blue Lagoon is man-made and is basically just a large outdoor swimming pool of water runoff from the geothermal plant. So after some light Googling, found a place about an hour and a half from Reykjavik called the Secret Lagoon. The place is amazing and exactly what I expected from a natural hot spring. Basically, a large pond pouring with steam, a river running next to it also pouring with steam, and then a load of smaller bubbling pools of water and mini geysers that would blast water into the air every 10 minutes or so. The place was on somebody's land, and they've built a changing room and a shower area and charge about £12 to get in. Between the pond and the river, there is a roped off area of small, deep pools that has a sign saying, "Warning, water is over 90 degrees. Do not enter at your own risk," which is probably a bad translation of "no entry. We accept no liability." Anyway, my wife and I were leaning against the side of the pond closest to this and notice a guy wander up, read the sign, then step over the rope. As he's walking up to one of the small pools, the lifeguard is running over and shouting, "Papa, you can't go in there." I don't know what that was. Then American accent replies, "Whatever, buddy. I could do whatever I want." By this time, the lifeguard has reached him and tries to explain to him that the water is between 90 and 110 degrees. And this is in Celsius, my fellow Fahrenheit friends. And that he walked right past a "do not enter" sign, to which the American responds, "No, it says enter at my own risk. So I am. And it's not very risky. It's hotter than 90 degrees in Nevada every day." This utterly perplexes the lifeguard, who has absolutely no idea what the hell the American is talking about. So I shout over, "Oi mate, it's Celsius, not Fahrenheit." Now the guy looks confused. "I don't know what that is. I'm going in." For reference, 90 to 110 degrees Celsius is 194 to 230 degrees Fahrenheit. Then follows about 5 more minutes of arguing between the American and the lifeguard before the American obviously thinks, "Screw this!" takes the 2 steps further into the pool and goes to put his foot in. Fortunately for him, but unfortunately for Darwinism, he only manages to dip a toe before screaming in pain and hopping back to the changing room in a huff. Lifeguard sighs and goes back to his chair. What a frickin' divvy. Damn, dude. See, this is this is what makes me uneasy about these natural hot springs. Cause like, the difference like 20 degrees in water temperature can make is insane. And like, those geysers, they can be incredibly hot, and who's to stop the earth from like, oh no, here's like 2 tons of magma shifting and flowing. Oh, and it's making contact with the water. Oh no, you're boiled alive. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a geologist, so I could be irrationally uneasy, but I'm not like terrified. If there's a hot spring and they say it's safe to go in, I'm gonna go in there. Like, I want to go to Japan one day and they have onsens everywhere, and I'm gonna live my dream of finally becoming a ladyfinger and being soaked in some hot liquid until I'm all soft and disintegrate. This story's called "Babysitter Was Convinced There Was Something Wrong With Me and Took Me to a Hospital Without Notifying My Mother." This happened when I was about 4 years old or so. And sadly, I don't remember it personally, but my mom told me the story many times in rants when I was a kid. Here's what I remember. For context, I have high-functioning autism. So as a child, I was, how we say, quirky. At the time, my mom was not only working a minimum wage job, but was also putting herself through college. So she frequently needed a babysitter for me and my older sister. One day, she had to hire a new one, and I was left with, let's call her Brittany. Brittany was a young and attractive girl, around 18 to 20, I think, and she seemed very nice to my mom. But after her babysitting me for just a few hours, she was convinced that there was something seriously wrong with me. So she put me in her car and took me to the hospital without notifying anyone. My sister was at school, so we were the only ones in the house. While at the hospital, I don't know if Brittany pretended to be my mother or a concerned relative or something, but she managed to convince the doctors and nurses that she was right in thinking I was in serious need of some immediate mental health. Finally, my mom was notified while she was at work. This was about 1990, before most people had cell phones. She got a call on the company's landline because one smart doctor there realized Brittany was not related to me, or even knew much about me for that matter, and they made her reluctantly cough up my mom's contact info. To say my mom was furious was an understatement. The ground shook as she stormed into the hospital and demanded to know where where I was. When she got to the room they were keeping me in, I had wires and electrodes hooked all over my head. She said I looked like something out of a horror movie. She immediately told them to cease what they were doing. Then she fired Brittany on the spot despite her crazy protests and calling my mother a bad mom. The doctors determined Brittany was full of hot air as well after examining me, and she was left on the hook for the bill of the hospital's time. After that, my mom started having my great-grandparents babysit me instead, and we moved in with them not long after. I honestly didn't expect this story to have blown up the way it has. I know this story sounds fake to many, and that my referring to the babysitter as Brittany wasn't a good idea, and this might not have been the right sub to post the story in. But I had no idea where else to post it. But this did happen, and honestly, I wish it didn't because it actually traumatized my mother a bit. She couldn't get the image of what happened out of her head for years. I had to comfort her many times as a child when the story was brought up. She blamed herself for leaving me with that person. And while this was before cell phones were common, my mom was easily reached via landline at her work. Brittany had access to a phone in the house we lived in at the time, and my mom was easily reached at work. The doctors had no problem getting a hold of her once they actually had her name and number. The doctors also had to apologize profusely to my mother for believing Brittany because they had doubts after initially checking me out. But she lied to them and was adamant something was very seriously wrong with me. I was fully capable of speech at the time, and diagnoses for autism in 1990 weren't so readily handed out as they were just a few years later. I wasn't diagnosed with Asperger's till I was 12 or 13, and before that, doctors just gave me a small examination and decided to pump me full of Ritalin from the time I was 6 or 7 till I was 15. I didn't get any real mental improvement till I was fully off the medication, as it left me depressed and unable to focus on more than one thing at a time. Also, yes, it does seem over the top. Brittany was stuck with the bill, but I think for her that was better than being arrested. Plus, people in those situations can often be billed for wasting the time of police or doctors. So I'll end with this. Believe what you want, but this did happen. Yeah, Brittany. What a crazy person. Always inform the parents if you think something's wrong with them, because for all you know, it could be a normal thing. It could just be, quirky. This story's called Karen Thinks She Can Have Free Use of My Truck. A few years ago, I had a side hustle on my days off. My job had a rotational schedule where I worked 2 weeks, then got 2 weeks off. I made plenty of money at my job, but it didn't hurt to make a little extra cash. I was, in essence, a tour guide, but for the region I lived in. I didn't have any planned tours, but usually just took people to see the neat places that they would not know about or think to go to. I was adamant about getting paid up front, and customers signed an agreement saying that made guarantees to protect my truck from messes or damage. Never had any issues, fortunately, and people always seemed to enjoy the places I showed them, except for one family. They seemed friendly enough when I was having them sign a contract and collecting my fee. I should mention my fee was $15 an hour plus $75, $35 if it was half a day. This covered a tank of fuel plus paid for my time shuttling you around. I also kept a cooler with free water and some limited snacks. You were paying for my knowledge of the region plus knowledge about the area's history and such. Plenty of times I had customers tell me, "I've never seen so much cool stuff in one day." You could maybe find something cheaper, but I didn't care. Once money changed hands with this family, the attitude changed. They began treating me like I was a second-class citizen, but I had their money, so I didn't care. I drove them around to some of the most beautiful scenery you can find. It's rare people are left speechless by these places, and never have I seen someone not be impressed. Until now. Every place I showed them, they just seemed disappointed. One of the places was a ski town popular with a lot of celebrities. Not Aspen. Yeah, I've been there. And they were just like, it's okay. I can't deny, I was a little offended by their indifference, but whatever. They were never outright rude during the day, but were surprised when I didn't buy lunch for them. As I said, you're paying for my time. Food is on you. But when I got back to town and dropped them off at their hotel, it got interesting. The wife says, "You can just park in the back and leave the keys at the desk. Tell them they are for the Smith family
family?
I'm sorry, what?
This truck. Just park it in the back. We might use it later.
This is my truck. I'm not leaving it here. That's not part of the deal.
Oh, please. There's no way you can own a vehicle like this. It obviously belongs to your company.
I do this job self-employed on my days off from my regular job. I assure you, this is my truck. I can show you my name on the title.
Young man,
I had just turned 30.
if you don't do as you're told, I will be forced to call your boss.
You mean me? I am my boss.
Okay, smartass. Get your boss on the phone right now.
I thought about just driving off. It's 8 p.m., but then had a better idea. I called my supervisor at my real job. We'll call him Dan. Dan had been in the oil field for 14 years and could be quite the cusser. Good supervisor, he knew what I did on my days off and even sent people my way a few times. He answered and I just said, one of my clients is demanding to speak with my boss. So here she is, and handed her my phone. Wife, sounding smug.
I tried to tell your driver to leave the truck here so we could use it, but he lied and said he owns it.
I could hear him yelling.
Are you freaking stupid?
I didn't discern anything else, but I know he gave her a good thrashing. She just walked to the window, handed me my phone, and said,
He wants to talk to you.
then walked away.
That fix your problem?
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Anytime, brother.
First of all, really cool side hustle. I'm curious as to where this guy's got his thing going on, because that sounds like something I'd be interested in, because I like nice views. Second, that's a really creative idea for a side hustle, and honestly, it's something I thought about doing too, but sadly, I've never lived in an area long enough to know it like that. This story's called Entitled Guy Tells Me to Shut Up Because I'm a Female. We had to organize a board games night with some friends. I knew less than half of the people who were there, but it was a chill mood. We all got something to eat and drink. After the meal, we started playing a game in which trading is a very important part. The game is called Catan. I've always wanted to play that. As we had too many to play, we made teams of 2, and my team was made of the only females present that day, me and a friend. We start playing, and the Entitled Guy's team is really slow to play, which annoys everyone. We start putting timers so they don't spend more than 7 minutes playing their turn, but they just ignore when the time is up. I start telling them to hurry and that it makes the game no fun, but of course they don't listen. I still think it annoyed them a bit. We keep playing like that until my team starts being ahead of everyone and starts winning the game. Then comes the trading part of the Entitled Guy's team, and the 2 other teams start trading. I then say that I'll accept the trade, which the other team didn't want to, and the Entitled Guy's team was trying to convince the other team. And he tells me to shut up because the men are talking. He then used this sentence every time I was trying to trade, as he saw that I found it really disrespectful. He then proceeded to lose the game, and I proceeded to win it.
Hell yeah, girl power. What?
That is so dumb. Okay, you don't need to play with people like that. I mean, it's one thing to be joking around and not mean it at all, and in fact mean the opposite, but it's clear that this guy had some malicious intent. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.